Hello and welcome to another xSmithyx video today. Here we are for our review of the Australian Grand Prix. If you have missed it, go and check it out before you watch this video, as there will be a fair few spoilers for the race in this video. Before we kick off then, I do just want to say a massive thank you to everyone who has watched the qualifying and the race. It does mean a lot to me. Make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss any more episodes for this series. And do make sure you are engaging, leave some comments below, let me know what you guys think of each episode, as I do take all your comments on board and I will try and make this as good a series as possible for you guys. With that being said, we're now going to jump straight in with our race review for the Australian Grand Prix. Again, if you haven't watched it, do go and do that so you're not spoiling the race for yourselves. But now we're going to quickly look at some of the key controversial moments from the race that I've picked out, look at a couple of comments that were left on the video, and really look at what happened and give my opinion on them. There is only one place we can start really, and that is the incident between Valtteri Bottas and Charles Leclerc that really changed the outcome of this race. Bottas here exiting the pits and Leclerc is trying to get past him around the outside, and as you can see he drives straight into the side of Valtteri Bottas. Very controversial, as this did lead to damage for the young Monegasque driver, and that really put him out of the race. I've slowed it down here again, you can see he had plenty of space around the outside. It just looks like he turned in too early pretty much and just drove straight into the side of the Mercedes. He lost half of his front wing on this and had to make another pit stop, which really ruined his race. We're going to see it again now, but I have to agree with a comment left by James Irwin saying that Leclerc was at fault for this. I have to agree, he should have just taken it round the outside there. He completely ruined his own race with that. And this really was a missed opportunity for Ferrari with the issues that Mercedes had in the second half of the race on that tyre. They really could have taken advantage had Leclerc not had this crash. Next we move on to an incident on the very same lap, just a few corners later. In the background there, Max Verstappen retiring from this race. It's a very disappointing weekend for him, being out-qualified by his teammate and then in the race being stuck behind Vettel for pretty much all of it before his Honda engine gave up, and this was another moment that really changed the race, because you have to feel Verstappen could have done something in the second half of that race if he saw the pace of Alex Albon, but here he is stranded on the track, we see on the right hand side there, and that was a bitter blow for the young Dutchman. And then the final thing I wanted to look at in this race review was the late battle between the two Renault drivers, Daniel Ricciardo and Esteban Ocon. Now this was an interesting one because I was quite split on what Renault should do here. Did they do the right thing, or should they have left Daniel Ricciardo out in front? Now I can understand for Ocon, obviously he wants to put his mark on this team. I'm not surprised he went for the move. We've seen at the past when he was with Racing Point how feisty he was with Sergio Perez, so he doesn't mind battling his teammate. And I think as well with Lando Norris charging down behind them after getting past Giovinazzi, he felt he wanted to get that place in order to keep this good point scoring position that he'd worked himself into. But from the Renault team perspective, you have to imagine they weren't very happy. If the two had come together and there was a little bit of contact between them, as we're about to see here as they come into turn 13, that could have been race over. They could have lost 18 points in this race, which has actually put them up in second in the Constructors at this moment in time, which is an incredible result for them. Obviously it's not on pure pace and they probably won't stay there, but this could have been a disaster for them. So let me know in the comments below what you guys think of it. My opinion, I think they probably should have stayed stationed, knowing that Norris didn't actually catch them towards the end of the race, but I'm interested to see what you guys think of this. And now with that, we are now going to focus on our race. If you did miss the first episode of the series, I did explain in that video that we will be looking at our race specifically on the Monday videos. So here we are. As you can see, very steady start, didn't want to go too far. You saw Sergio Perez there dive massively up the inside of everyone. That is how he got so far up the grid from his P18. As you can see, we did have a bit of a poor exit. We did get overtaken by Nicholas Latifi here. Tried to go back up the inside, but he was going a bit defensive. I didn't want to risk contact on this first lap. As you can see, I didn't realise this till I watched the replay cameras. He actually hit us going through that corner, and that is why Latifi was so far back through this Grand Prix. The first lap, again, was very steady. We didn't make too many moves, and as you can see, our train is already starting to form behind Giovinazzi. Again, just to clear up something that was in the comments, this is the main reason why the midfield battle wasn't shown. There were literally no moves until the pit stops. It was just this long DRS train, no one overtook anyone, which is why we chose to focus on the battle for the lead. But, as you can see, we were behind our teammate here. We didn't want to get too close on that one. We were just trying to get comfortable with the car, because this was the first race I did on the game, and it's very different this year to the games I've played in the past, so I was just getting used to the handling model. I thought I'd take it a bit steady, didn't want to push too much, didn't want to overheat the tyres, so we just decided to stay behind our teammate here as we come towards the end of lap 1, and you can see this enormous train that is formed behind Giovinazzi in P7, goes all the way down to me, and I'm in P21 at this point. The dirty air effects on this game has really shown that cars are struggling to overtake, and this is a very difficult track to overtake around anyway, so that really did compromise the midfield battle as no one could really get clear of Giovinazzi. You can see this mini train that I'm in is actually being held up by George Russell at this point, who is ahead of Pierre Gasly and Lance Stroll in the other racing point. And this was a key theme of our first stint. We were just stuck behind Russell. Gasly could not find a way past him, and this really did start to cost us as the stint went on, as we dropped away from the back of the midfield fight. And it was at this point that I really solidified in my mind that I was going to do the two-stop in this race. Obviously, the strategy for Australia for a 50% race is usually a one-stop, softs or mediums onto the hard tyre. But as we said in practice, the hard tyre felt horrendous. I didn't feel comfortable on it. So I was very hesitant to go for it. But when I saw this train forming and I saw that we were struggling to get past Russell, I decided very early on that what we were going to do is pit a little bit early, go onto another set of soft tyres, blitz it for a few laps, and hopefully we could undercut George Russell and show the true pace of our car, because at the minute we're just getting nowhere. We're stuck behind our teammate, couldn't get close enough to pass, and no one could get past George Russell on the straights. As we move on then, this is lap 4, so you can see no progress has been made. You can see our train starting to fall off the back now. Here I go for a massive dive bomb on my teammate Jack Aitken. I was starting to get more comfortable with the car, and I thought that I would have a better chance of getting past, as we see the move again on the replay here, just how far back I came from. Down the inside, good move, no contact. Aitken being very respectful and left the door open there for me, so I do appreciate that from my teammate. But my thinking was we could try and get after Stroll, because Aitken didn't look close at all to getting a move done on him, so I decided to push the initiative. A little bit of a corner cut there, we'll ignore that, and try and get the move done hopefully during the first stint, and if not, then we try and get past this entire train during the pit stop phase. We move now on to lap 7. This is the lap I came into the pits, and as you can see we've still not got past, but here we send a massive dive just before the pit lane entry on Lance Stroll. I was getting a bit frustrated, I'm not going to lie, being stuck in this train, so I just sent one up the inside. It wasn't really worthwhile doing because I am pitting on this lap anyway. As we see, I come into the pits here. I had thought about maybe putting the medium on for this stint rather than the last one, which is what we ended up doing, but my thinking was if we could use a soft tyre to try and create a bit of a gap, it would put us in a better position and maybe even put us onto the back of the midfield fight after they all made their pit stops, which ultimately did. A very good pit stop here from the team, the first one they have made in Formula 1, so good job guys. 2.3 seconds, and as you can see we come out of the pit lane just behind Latifi, who struggled to catch up after that spin on lap 1, down in P22 at this stage of the Grand Prix. We move on a couple of laps now. This is, I believe, lap 9, and as we can see we have got midfield cars in sight. This is the battle for 10th position. You can see how effective that undercut was for us. As you can see, Raikkonen, Carlos Sainz is in there, Kvyat, the two Haas drivers, we're just behind, which shows just how powerful the undercut was, and I feel like moving onto the softs was the right strategy. We tried to go up the inside of Magnussen here, but he doesn't leave us much space, and I didn't want to dive up the inside there because that gap was always going to close. So we decided to stay behind the Haas for this point, but this, I felt, really validated our decision to go on this, as we see Max Verstappen after his retirement there on the right hand side. But this was really positive for me. It showed the car did have decent pace when it wasn't being held up. Obviously we do have to stop again, so we're not really in a fight with these guys who are all on the hard tyre. But being up here and being able to race these guys and keep up with them did give me a lot of confidence in the car. I was getting more confident as the race went on, so the pace did improve, and I was very happy to see that we were able to catch up to these guys on this lap, because obviously there was a bit of a gap you saw at the start of the lap. We're now right behind Magnussen, and let's see what we can do against him as we come towards the pit straight. We're trying to line him up for a pass here. Obviously it's going to be very difficult with all these cars being in DRS of each other. This was, again, the theme of the midfield in this race. It was very difficult because all the cars were so close together and all in DRS that you just couldn't get the jump. But here we go into turn 1. We had to go for a massive dive bomb here, very, very late on the brakes. Managed to get it stopped somehow. But this is where I started to get a little bit punchy as we watched the replay. We were so far back behind. Don't know how I managed to get that move stopped. But at this point I was starting to get comfortable with the car, and we decided to get our elbows out and get some moves done to try and get ourselves further ahead of George Russell, who I can tell you did stop at the same time as our teammate Jack Aitken. and he's actually still stuck behind George Russell, so this really did give me confidence in the decision I made to pit early and go onto this 2-stop, because I did not want to be caught behind that Williams, the team we are choosing to fight this season. We do not want to be stuck behind them for too long, and I felt this was going to be the best chance we had this Grand Prix of getting past George Russell. We move on now to the end of the next lap, and as you can see, we are now on the back of Romain Grosjean in the other Haas. Again, you can see on the straight here, we're really not gaining, so we go very late on the brakes, get a much better exit. You can see how much we close. These soft tyres really paying off for us. As we get into the DRS now, we're going to try and go for a move. Grosjean goes defensive, so we brake incredibly late, dive it round the outside. This was a move I was very proud of. Round the outside of the Haas driver in a car that is much better than ours. We made it stick, and at this point we're up into P13 in this Grand Prix. I tried as hard as I could for the rest of this stint to try and catch up to Daniel Kvyat in the AlphaTauri car just in front of us. And while I did manage to close up to him as the stint went on, I just could not get close enough to get a move done. He was in the slipstream of the McLaren there of Carlos Sainz, so nothing doing there. We come in for our final pit stop onto medium compound tyres. This was going to be the key point in the race. I hoped that I'd put a big enough of a gap over Russell that I could come out not too far behind him and hopefully get a move done, because I would be on much fresher, much softer tyres. That would give me a massive advantage as the race went on. As you can see, we come out in completely clean air. We're about 5 or 6 seconds behind the Williams and behind our teammate, but we're going to put our foot down now and hopefully try and catch them before the end of this Grand Prix and get the move done, because that will be very crucial in our battle with Williams this season. And a couple of laps later, here we are on the back of our teammate Jack Aitken through turns 11 and 12. He is still stuck behind George Russell, so this is the reason I decided to go for the 2-stop in this Grand Prix, because I did not want to be stuck on the same tyre, a tyre that I really did not enjoy in practice. But you can see the medium tyre, just how much more pace and confidence I have right on the gearbox of my teammate. And here we go into the penultimate corner. We send one up the inside. You can see in the background there the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc, who made 3 stops in this race after his accident. I want to try and put a bit of clean air between me and him, put Jack Aitken in the way so that I could focus on this battle with George Russell. So as we come into turn 1, once again, a bit later on the brakes, we take a nicer line through there, get a very good exit, and of course we are in DRS of the Williams, so we pull out to the right hand side, late on the brakes into turn 3, we get the job done, cut across his nose just to make sure he can't get past us. A bit of oversteer on the exit, but as you can see, Charles Leclerc did manage to get past Jack Aitken down that straight, but I just wanted to focus on the fight with Russell, because obviously we know the Ferrari's going to get through. It's such a faster car. Leclerc could have been fighting for the race win in this, so there's no point trying to fight him. So here we go on to the next lap. He's right behind us now in the DRS. I was going to give him the inside, but he decided to go around the outside. I braked a bit late. I was very surprised that the Ferrari broke early here. I was trying to give him that corner, but he just didn't go for it. But at this point I knew there's no point in fighting Leclerc. As you can see just in front, that is Pierre Gasly, who's currently P16. I wanted to try and beat him, and I know that I'm going to lose time fighting the Ferrari. So as we come into the next corner, I just think it's better to give Leclerc the corner. You can see he's up the inside here. Nice and easy. Didn't try and fight him. He did go across the curb there, which compromised his exit a little bit, but my thinking was I could use him to tow me along. But as we cut onto a few laps here, Leclerc is long gone. He flew away from me. I couldn't keep up with him. And now we go on to the penultimate lap of this Grand Prix. It's been a very quiet race for us. We are currently P18, trying to get past Gasly for P17s. We come into turn 1. I put him under a bit of pressure here, and he locks up massively, compromises his line into this corner. This is the battle we saw during the full race replay. So we're in the slipstream now. We pull out. I do go for a huge dive bomb up the inside, but I brake a little bit too late there. And Gasly, fair play to him, does a fantastic little switchback move on me there. I was very impressed with that. Obviously not best pleased, because I do want to get past him, but it was very good to see the AI fighting against us here. But now as we come into the next few corners, I'm trying to line him up for a move, trying to find somewhere I can get through. As you can see here, I did go for a look here, but I would have been better off not doing so, because I lose so much time on the exit after hitting the curb on the inside. I was very annoyed at myself with that, because I thought I'd lost the opportunity, but we use overtake mode down here, and interestingly we were actually faster on the straights than the AlphaTauri car, so we're back in the slipstream. We do get the DRS into this corner, but we're just too far back at this moment in time to get past him, so I know this move is going to have to be done on the final lap. As we come into the last few corners here, obviously the next corner is not an overtaking point. I did have a think into this penultimate corner of diving it up the inside, but I thought it'd be better to stay in the slipstream on the main straight and use DRS there rather than give him the chance to come back at us. So as we come around the final corner, a very poor exit there, but as you can see here, up into rich revs, using overtake mode with DRS, we pull out of the slipstream of Pierre Gasly. Nothing he can do as we're on better tyres down the inside, and that was the move done for P17 on the final lap. So that was our race, nothing else we could do after this point, but we crossed the line. That was a fantastic result for us. P17, Jack Aitken there in the background, gets P19, and we did comprehensively beat Williams this weekend. George Russell retired towards the end of the race, and Nicholas Latifi did finish in last. So that has been our race review of the Australian Grand Prix. I hope you have enjoyed it. Again, please subscribe to keep up to date with this series and drop a like on the video if you have enjoyed it. It really does help the channel and push it out there to new people, which as a new YouTuber is very, very important for me. So please do that if you have enjoyed. Obviously the Bahrain Grand Prix will be coming up this weekend, so do let me know your predictions. Who do you think is going to win? Where do you think we're going to come? Get them in the comments below. And now the last piece of business is driver of the day. I let you know my thoughts towards the end of the last race, and in the comments below we voted for Sergio Perez. He's going to be voted as driver of the day. After a couple of races, I will keep tally of these. I'll get a leaderboard up for you, and then we'll give a driver of the season award out at the end of the season. But that has been it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed, and do make sure to join me on Saturday for qualifying and the pre-race team management stuff for the Bahrain Grand Prix. But I have been xSmithyx. I hope you have enjoyed, and we'll see you in the next one.